Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. We're a podcast about board games where we have opinions and conclusions formed on the basis of incomplete information. This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is brought to you by these great Saskatoon businesses: Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street, Dragon's Den Games on 8th Street, MrDiceGuy.com, and Breakout Escape Rooms on Faithful Avenue. Welcome to Cardboard Conjecture. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Ian.
And on this episode, I'll be talking about Newton.
And I am going to be talking about Targi. Oh God, I don't have something for this one.
Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Amazing Stories Comics on 8th Street in Saskatoon. They are the winner of the Joe Shuster Award for Best Comic Book Store in Canada, and they were also nominated in 2016 for the U.S. Eisner Spirit of Comics Retailer Award presented at Comic-Con. Amazing Stories' amazing collection of comic books, board games, puzzles, and collectibles can be found in their store or on their new online website. And welcome back to Cardboard Conjecture. We're going straight into doing, thinking, playing board games. And you know what? Let's. Who wants to go? I always like balk. It's like a bad pitch, opening pitch. Who wants to do this thing? Okay,
sure. I'll take it this time.
All right.
I'll take it this time. So in Jen and I's kind of pile of games that we've been going through, we've come across another. Get this, another 2-player only Duel type of game. I know Ian's really on these name things. Mm-hmm. So we've got Imhotep, the Duel. So this is now they've created a 2-player only game based off of the Imhotep board game, but now they've created just this 2-player Duel version.
Cool. I've always wanted to hear about this game. Right on.
It's designed by Phil Walker Harding. He designed the original Imhotep, and it's published by Cosmos. So yes, this is another one of these games that has a bigger sibling board game, and they created this strictly 2-player Duel version. Even though the 2-player game, 2-player version of the original game was actually quite good. So I don't know why they kind of made this, but much like what happened with another game that we really enjoy, which is Seven Wonders Duel, that was made. They kept the same core aspect of the gameplay. But they changed it up enough to create a pretty new experience. So in this one, you don't have stone resources. That was a big thing in the big one. You had these stone resources that you had to gather, and then you had to put them on boats, and then you had to send those boats over to different locations. You don't have that in this game. Rather, all you have at your disposal is you got 4 workers. It's a worker placement game. Then you'll place them out onto this 3x3 grid. And on one end of each of the columns and rows of this grid are the boats, and they have a whole bunch of different types of tiles that you can collect. Once a column or row has at least 2 workers in it, so it can either be 2 of your workers, 2 of another player's workers, 1 of each. As long as you have at least 2 workers in a row or column, you can spend an action to unload a boat, which means you take the goods off of the tiles off of it, and the way you take the goods off of it is depending on where your workers are in association with that boat. So if you are closest to the boat, you're going to take the tile that is farthest away from you. And if you're in the middle, you'll take the middle good, so forth, kind of like that. Where am I at here? I'm losing it all. Okay, each player has a player board. Oh yeah, this is what it is.
Too many subtitles.
Yeah, each player has a player board that's made up of 4 double-sided pieces, each with their own way to score points, and that's where these tiles are going to go. Each tile dictates what kind of good it wants and how you're going to score points. So it's kind of variable in that regard. You can switch them all up every now and then. There's an A side, B side. Lots of very interesting decisions to be made as to where you are going to place your workers. And when do you unload a boat, possibly messing up another player's plan? This happens quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
As in, you can see as people are loading or putting their workers down, you can kind of guess which kind of goods they're going to go for. And so therefore you can unload a boat and then totally wipe away the workers in that row or column. And then they have to kind of start from scratch again. Very well done production. Very good game design, I would say. It's in the same weight and kind of the same vein as that Seven Wonders duo.
Mm-hmm.
It plays quickly. It's a 20 to 30-minute game. This is another one of those duel games. I kind of highly recommend this one. This one changes up that core gameplay just enough that it's something brand new. And it's very good. It's almost it's very chess-like, where you're playing your guys and when do you execute a move type thing. Yeah. Imhotep the Duel. And
Cool.
Be prepared. I've got a lot more of these the duel games coming in the future.
Well, I really like Philip Walker Harding's games. He's one of my favorite. He tends to do the light to light medium stuff. Like I've got Cacao, archaeology, right? I mean, all of a sudden I start looking, going, wait, Sushi Go, yeah, the Sushi Go party.
Sushi Go, okay.
Yeah, yeah. The more I look around, the more I'm like, hey, wait, that's another. Okay, all right. So I'd like him more.
Park.
Yeah,
Baron Park is another really good one that he's done.
So he's got a good repertoire. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I've yet to play
He's another designer that when he releases something, I kind of pay attention to.
Cool.
Because it is all usually on that lighter to medium heavy end. So they're usually games that a lot of people will enjoy.
Right on. Well, I had the opportunity to pick up from Jeff off of his Ding and Dent section on his website at Amazing Stories, War of Whispers by Jeremy Stolzfus, published by Starling Games. And it's a 2 to 4 player. Man, this is so weird to explain how this is, but this is what drew me in so much. It's a 2 to 4 player game. It's about political secrets and espionage set in a medieval-esque period, right? Not necessarily any maps that we would recognize, but thematically we kind of get that kind of, factions fighting factions kind of thing, a la, Game of Thrones situation. But in this game, you're not playing any of those factions. You're playing one of 4 secret societies operating in the background, manipulating and influencing these, let's say, clans or factions or countries or empires to either go to battle or to replenish their banners. And in this case, banners are like armies, right? Depending on how you select it. So you're one of these secret societies, and on your player board, this is the betting bluffing thing that is so cool, that intrigues me a lot, is that on your player board you have a picture of each of these factions or clans or empires, like I said, and you place them down in such an order that from left to right you have times 4, times 3, times 2, times 0, and -1. So you have to choose at the end of the game which of these clans or empires are going to give you the best multiplier opportunities. And what you're multiplying are the cities that are within these empires, the cities of control. So let's say that the Bear Clan has 4 cities at the end of the game that they control, and for some, and coincidentally enough, you've put that icon. You've bet at the end of the game that they're going to make you 4 times the amount of cities. So if they've got 4 cities, you just made 16 points just off of that one scoring opportunity. Now go to the opposite end of the spectrum of that player board is -1. Everybody's going to have an empire on that board that, if they're successful, is going to cost them points in a bad way, right? So whoever had the Bear Clan in the -1 spot, you just lost 16, or you just lost 4 points, my friend, right? So, and as I said, it successively goes down in the order of their importance that you're wagering the interaction of these countries. Now, how do they work? You go around the board and you have spies that influence each country, and it's on a circular track, but it's basically a recipe. You start from the top, and it's always this country goes first, this country goes second, this country goes third, right down the list. And on the list, you have each country has 4 things or 4 advisors that you can influence, and each advisor will do something different on the board. They'll either allow you to put more banners on, or allow you to attack, or allow you to take a special power card that, in combination with certain actions, allow you to increase the volume or the power of that action. And this is such a cool push-pull game. I just did a couple mock plays, enough so that, when you look at a mechanism and go, that intrigues me, and enough so that I bought the game and went, okay, I flushed it out a couple times. I like what's going on. I want to play this game with people, because this to me seems like such a cool push-pull battle. And there's an interesting thing that you can do at the end of every round is, if your champion, if your empire that's in that ×4 bonus spot is getting the snot beat out of it by everybody else, you can do a switch, but you have to now, what's hidden information, you have to reveal to everybody what 2 tokens you're switching spots on. So now everybody knows, okay, Norm's in, he just got rid of his top spot and swapped it out with the Crow clan. All right, we know that he's ×3 on the Crow clan. Let's be aware of that, right? So that's that whole thing is like, I might get my teeth kicked in because this one clan who I thought was going to do well isn't doing well, and I switched it. That to me seems so cool too. So I'm going to basically bribe you guys as much as I can to play this game whenever we can. That's how much it intrigues me.
It sounds interesting. I've never heard of it before. Is it an older game or a newer game?
It's 2019. It's one of these games that under the radar, man.
I have no idea if this is similar or not, but have you ever played Kremlin?
No.
Because this is kind of sounding...
I've heard some reviewers say this is Game of Thrones in an hour.
Okay. Because Kremlin is an interesting game. It's an older game, but it's Russian politicians.
Yeah.
And you're like, same thing. You're working behind the scenes to try to get certain politicians up in the ranks. That's what it kind of reminds me of, but it seems, I don't really remember how that works exactly. I remember liking it and thinking I'd never really seen a game like it before. I
thought if I revealed the mechanisms of this game to you guys, that it would intrigue you enough to be like, okay, because it's not a risk, game or Axis and Allies game, because you're not the countries. I just find, and that whole betting thing.
Yeah, it seems pretty cool.
Right? It's and understanding that the map is reflective on the positioning. The country who's in the middle and surrounded on all fronts has less borders shared, right? So there's all these weird, interesting balances in how the geographic positioning influences the actions of that country that you're able to take. So, it wasn't like every country has the same. The first guy does this. No, it was all mixed up in balance in retrospect to the geographical and strategic and militaristic positioning of the people on that board. So, yeah.
It intrigued me. This looks very interesting.
Yay! And it's on, and again, I don't know how much you guys are like playing online, but it's on Tabletop Simulator. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, they just came out. I think they did a deluxe upgrade kit for the first guy. I think they did a.
I heard that.
Yeah, they did a second. They already kind of did a second edition, but they kind of like upgraded some of the components and stuff like that. And I think just introduced a couple new modules into the game. This one always sounded interesting.
Good. because to me that, you know, you can't solo a game like this and get everything out of it. Yeah, it's like I'd have to like put a spike in my frontal lobe so I could forget what I did the round before. Not advising anybody to try and do that.
Please don't do that.
Please don't do that. I trust me, it scars up, and it everybody sees it. So, so yeah, War of Whispers. That's an interesting way to finish off that one. Is jab a sharp metal object into the side of your Labadi Munich kid. Ian.
Okay. What do you guys want to hear about?
Now, I know one I want to hear about.
I'm interested in the second one, just because of my acquisition. But what are you hinting at, Ryan? For people who don't know, we're looking at 3 options that Ian has to talk about, and you know what? It'll be like a game show for the listeners. He is going to could talk about Arkham Horror, or could talk about Bruges, or could talk about Orléans.
I kind of want to hear his thoughts about Arkham Horror.
Now, is this the card game or is this the board game?
Second edition, game. I believe.
The board game.
I believe it's second edition, right?
I think, is this the one that takes 5 days to play?
Yes. No, it didn't take us 5 days. Yeah, so Arkham Horror has been around for a while. Like, I think it first came out like in the 80s or something.
They're still
like
playing
that.
The first game that they no.
Yeah, so my buddy wanted to try it out, so okay, we thought we'd try it out. It's not a game for me.
That was the most polite I've ever heard it.
But I'm glad that I got a chance to play it, because it's got a big reputation, right, in the board game community. There's some really cool aspects. What you're doing is you're moving characters around a board to different locations. There's like this city that you're traveling through, but there's like these gateways that open up and monsters come out, and then you've got to fight the monsters. But what I like is that when you go to a location, you just draw a card, and then it tells you kind of what will happen at that location. And that's kind of cool, because it's like you don't really know what's going to happen, and it's very random, but it's still kind of cool. But I was confused a lot of the time and didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. I think I found it was messy. It was a big, very messy game. And the ending was kind of worked. Like, the goal is there's some big monster you got to fight. And like, I'm not really, the theme isn't for me. I'm not a big fight monsters kind of guy for board games. But you're supposed to fight this big monster, and I think it switches up every game. It's always something different. And then any characters that are left in the game are like slowly losing life and losing their minds. Yeah. And you're basically just trying to hold out enough rounds to kill the guy before he just wipes out all your characters. I like the idea of a big showdown to end the game. I think we didn't really know what we had to do to prepare for it, though, and so I think that's where a lot of confusion came in.
I like that. It's kind of like you have to prepare how to prepare.
Yeah.
For the big bad.
Yeah. So maybe if we knew what to expect the next time, it might go better. But honestly, I just kind of felt I was just kind of wandering around a lot and wasn't really sure what I should be doing.
You just described Christmas with my relatives, man. Okay, so.
Yeah, so you were describing, I think you guys were playing the second. I own Arkham Horror, the 3rd edition, which I believe is a completely different entity. So when they say it's Arkham Horror 3rd edition.
Is that the one that's got like the modular board?
Yes.
Okay.
And it is very, I'll say it's pandemic-like, but with a story. And what you're doing is you're unraveling a story every time that you play it. Is it what's happening? I don't know. But I've heard the mechanisms are completely different than from, like, say, the 2nd edition. and much so that they shouldn't even called it Arkham Horror 3rd Edition. They just kind of should have called it Arkham Horror something else.
A subtitle with another subtitle.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they completely revamped the whole game when they re-released it.
I remember seeing some of the guys playing this one at Friday Night Games, and I was watching it for a little bit in between games, and what struck me the most was the randomness just did not appeal to me. Like flip the card and it's like, you fell down the hole, you're dead, right? That is that kind of abruptness that I thought I like to have a little more control in the outcome of a game that I'm playing than what I was witnessing that this game had. And what I also witnessed, that I was also able to play 2 heavy Euro games while they weren't even done this one game. So I thought I probably won't get this to the table because it's just not hitting any of my checklists. But I'm glad that people like you sit in the chair for me.
Yeah.
It's a highly regarded Cthulhu-like game amongst Cthulhu gamers. And
yeah.
When you look at a picture of it, it just looks like a massive convoluted mess. If you just, and especially there's some pictures out there, like it's got also, like the 2nd edition had a bazillion expansions.
Yeah. Oh, and it's an evergreen title, right?
Like, yeah, and so like so there's pictures of people that have incorporated every single expansion, and just looks like a massive.
Yeah, it took Lane like forever to set it up.
Well,
like he was setting it up like at least an hour before I even got there.
Yeah,
piles of decks of cards, like.
Yes.
Oh man, yeah, it is crazy. It's nuts.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said, but yet heavily regarded as a good Cthulhu-like game.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of people say that the 3rd edition completely changes. Like you said, it's a completely different game. So yeah, so if a lot of people, it's like, were turned off by the 2nd edition, a lot of people go, oh no, give the 3rd edition try, because they fixed everything that everybody didn't like about that edition. So
the 3rd edition still takes a long time to play. Like the introductory game, the one they say is your first game, still took Jen and I like 3.5 hours to play.
Oh man, that's like 7 Hands of Teutonicus.
So
all right,
so that was cool. Ian's experience with Arkham Horror.
Mm-hmm.
This episode of Cardboard Conjecture is proudly sponsored by Dragon's Den Games, located in the Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Swing by Dragon's Den Games and let Darren, Al, and the awesome staff help you out in search for great board games, role-playing games, miniature systems, and all of the related accessories. Be a part of their gaming communities that have scheduled events in their great gaming area. Dragon's Den Games, Louis VIII Mall on 8th Street in Saskatoon. Welcome back to Cardboard Conjecture. We are going straight into the review. And here's the handoff to Ryan.
Yes, I'm excited to talk about this one. So the game that I chose this time around, is Targi, which was published in 2012 now, so a little bit of an older game. Designed by Andreas Steger and published by Cosmos, with the art by Tyra Atiksu and Franz Vollwinkel. Oh gosh, I apologize for names. I am not good at this. So Targi, it's a 2-player only game. So it's just a 1v1 game, and it generally takes about 45 to 60 minutes to play. Okay, so Targi. Unlike in other cultures, the desert Turag men, known as Targi, cover their faces, whereas women of the tribe do not wear veils. They run the household, and they have the last word at home in the tents. Different families are divided into tribes, headed by the Imashiran, or nobles. As leader of a Tuareg tribe, players trade goods from near, such as dates and salt, or far, like pepper, in order to obtain gold and other benefits and enlarge their family. In each round, there are new offerings that are made. Cards are means to an end in order to obtain the popular tribe cards. These give advantages during the game and victory points at the end. Whoever has the most victory points is the winner of Targi. Okay, so let's just go into the nuts and bolts of Targi quickly here. So Targi is an abstract tactile action selection type of game. And like I mentioned before, it's designed for only 2 players. The board, I put board in quotation marks here, it's made out of cards. So there's 16 cards that create a border, and then there's 9 cards that are placed into the center of this. The 16 border cards depict all the different types of actions that players can assign their Targi figures to. And the 9 central cards are made up of different things, like different goods or the different tribes that you can trade with. The main mechanism of this game is assigning your Targi figures to the border cards. You're going to put them all along the border, and then placing 2 tribe markers in the cross sections of those figures. So you'll have 5 pieces on the board, and then that means you're going to be taking, most likely, 5 actions. You're just going to be gaining goods, collecting tribe cards, taking various other different types of actions like conversions. One of the big rules is that a player cannot place their Targi figure in where there is another Targi figure in either a row or a column. So if I'm on the top of one column, Ian, you cannot put your Targi figure at the bottom of that column. That's a no-go. There's also a robber, which is just kind of like this other figure that's moving around the board. You just can't go where he is. And he also kind of acts like the game timer. As soon as he makes his all the way around the border, the game ends. Various other ways to score. There's various other ways to score points here and there throughout the game. You might get 1 point, 2 points for doing some certain actions. But the big main way is to collect these tribe cards and making trade routes with these different tribes. Tribe cards cost a certain number of goods to trade, and by paying the cost, you can put it into a tableau. You're going to have a tableau in front of you, and each tribe card is worth 1 to 3 points, and most will also give you some sort of in-game ability or end-of-game scoring. At most, though, you're going to acquire 12 of these tribe cards, creating 3 rows of 4. You're awarded bonus points if all of the cards in a row are the same type of tribe, or if they're all different tribes. You'll score some bonus points in that regard. The game will end one of 2 ways. One player either having all 12 cards built into their tableau, or when the robber reaches the final border card, at that time you'll see who has the most points.
So this card setup, is it the same every time, or the cards, switch out the cards?
So the border cards are the same every single time. They're numbered 1 through 16.
Okay.
Going on. But the ones in the center, those are the ones that are going to be variable. There's going to be different types of goods, and they're going to rotate as you purchase those cards. If you take a goods card, a tribe card is going to take its place. If you take a tribe card, a goods card is going to take its place. So the center 9 are always changing throughout the whole game.
Okay.
But yeah, the 16 on the outside are always the same. Okay, let's get into some opinions. This game is nice and compact. As I can say, it's only some tokens and some cards. And it's housed in one of Cosmos's small boxes. That's the best way that I can explain it. They have a whole line of these kind of like 2-player small box games. So it's very easy to travel with. We've taken this game various places, like the lake and other places, because it just travels easily and with the box. The art, I don't know if you're looking at this in here, but the art is very Euro-ish. Lots of browns, but that actually kind of makes sense because there's lots of setting. The setting is kind of like sand dunes and traversing the desert. I don't know. The art is functional. It's not the drawing sticking point of this game. I seem to sound like this a lot in these past few episodes. You will not be buying this game based solely on the art. Even though it's just
I like the old Euro aesthetic anyway.
Yeah, it's nice. It's very functional. The rule book is fine. It does a very good job explaining the flow of the game, exactly how it works. But even for a small rule book, like it's a two-fold booklet, they cram a lot of text into those 6 pages. When I first read this booklet, I thought they may have been too detailed. Like they went in too much detail in trying to make things, and they kind of repeat themselves a couple times. But I guess that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's better to be more detailed than too vague in an explanation. I hate it when rules are too vague, because then we get Brett on the case.
The rules lawyer.
The components are very simple in Targi. Couple decks of cards, some cardboard tokens, nice wooden figures. A true example that less is more in this game. It's a big game created out of minimal components. So on that note, let's talk about the gameplay, because that is where people generally really talk about Targi. In my terms, we've mentioned this a few times before, is that it's an elegant design. It's very simple to teach and very simple to play. You're placing down your figures, you're finding those cross sections, and then I'm going to take probably 5 actions, and my opponent's going to take 5 actions, move on to the next round. And we're not saying like actions are like convoluted. Like an action is get a good. I might take like one of my turns might be just 5 actions of just getting goods, and that would be a round sometimes. So trying to plan out the perfect turn at times, it's very difficult because of what your opponent is probably paying attention to, what you're trying to do, and block action spots that will coincidentally also block the cross-section goods or tribe cards that you're trying to claim. It very much becomes a game of tactics. And that's what I really, really like about this game. What can I settle for if my plan is ruined? Is what I'm settling for beneficial to my overall gameplay? Like those are questions you're going to ask yourself, because this is very much I'm going to try to stop you at best possible. And while I'm trying to stop you, I'm going to try to also get something out of mine. I haven't talked about those action spaces very much, but they're very, very straightforward types of actions. Like get some goods, convert some goods to points or other goods. But one really important action spot that I should really highlight here is if your plan goes south, which mine always do, there is an action spot that allows you to move one of your cross-section tribe markers to any other unoccupied central card. That is key, because utilizing that action space is very key to obtaining hard-to-come-by cards that your opponent keeps blocking you from getting. Jen, you keep blocking me getting my cards that complete my set, or something like my set of tribe cards or something like that. So like I mentioned, this is a game of tactics, reacting to what your opponent is doing and placing their target figures. You need to be blocking your opponent consistently and getting in each other's way in order to succeed at this game. So in that regard, interaction between players is very, very good in this game, because you're constantly got to try to go back and forth. Couple other points I'm going to make about this gameplay. You are limited to only having 10 goods at the end of your turn. I kind of like this as a design choice, as it stops you from the hoarding a ton of goods and then just claiming a whole bunch of cards. I like that you have to be limited. Every 3 rounds, there's a quote-unquote raid that happens where players need to either surrender goods or points.
Yeah.
Adds another nice little twist here that sometimes it might be beneficial to surrender your points in order to hang on to some goods for the next turn, because you might have a big turn planned. So raids, some things that you have to be planning for in Targi. Okay, let's get to my conclusions. If you probably haven't heard from the tone of my voice,
You hate this game, man.
Oh, nailed it right there. No, lots of conversations have been around Targi, and that it is like one of the premier 2-player only board games around. It's always coming up in these top 10 lists of 2-player games and stuff like that. I think it's rightfully so. If there's a negative to this game, somebody please get on Twitter, get on something, and point it out to me. I can't really think of a flaw of this game other than that the rule book is too wordy, because I don't like words, because I'm a math teacher. I'm always saying that the rule books have too many words. The design is elegant. Gameplay is smooth. It is simple to teach. The game time is that sweet spot of about 45 to 60 minutes. Games get closer to that 60 minutes because of, analysis paralysis, which I tend to have mid and late game, because as the round timer is counting down, I'm running out of time to do the things that I want to do. And that happens.
Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
Targi, I put it in here. Targi crams difficult, meaty decisions into a very simple and small game. Not too many games do that, in my opinion. So kudos to this one. So not only is this a top shelf 2-player only game, this is a top shelf game overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'll even go out on a limb in here, and I'll say it right here. This is mine and Jen's number 1 2-player only game of all time at the moment.
Cool.
According to BG Stats, we've played Targi 43 times since we've owned it.
Wow.
And I've got it on here. Jen holds the record. She has 25 wins to my 18. And this is still one we just played it last night, actually.
Are you sure you're a math teacher?
Wait, does that not add up?
No, I'm just joking. It's like numbers.
So
no, I love this game too. Yeah, absolutely.
It's fantastic. I think if you game with your significant other, or you find yourself in situations where you're playing lots of 2-player games, this should be definitely one that I think people should consider, or even look and look up, because
it's not expensive at all for what you're getting.
It is. I think at Amazing Stories you can get it for $20, $25.
Yeah, and I mean, if you, I like to refer to it as the movie ticket comparison. This game's paid for its hours of entertainment out of that $25.
You get a lot of bang for your buck. Like I said, they made a big game out of very minimal components. A couple decks of cards, a few tokens.
It's that
figures.
Matrices. It's that crossover in the middle XY intersection thing. That's juicy. I love that. Yeah. Cool.
So Targi, I highly recommend this one. It's still very readily available. And just entering into North American distribution right now is the expansion. The expansion is coming in, and Rahdo's gone on record saying that the expansion improves upon perfection. Like he says that he'll never play Targi without the expansion content. So that's one that we have to explore.
All right.
This episode is proudly supported by the amazing team at Breakout Escape and Board Game Lounge right here in Saskatoon. Using industry-leading technology, Breakout Escape's escape rooms are all 100% uniquely designed by the team, ensuring their patrons have maximum fun while staying safe. As well, they are a fully licensed board game lounge with over 400 titles to select from to ensure fun for every gamer, new and experienced. Be sure to check them out at breakoutsask.com. At Breakout Escapes and Game Lounge, they believe that life is more fun when you play games.
So I am going to review a game called Newton, and it's not having to do with a cookie. It's having to do with the scientific enlightenment time. So
is
Newton,
that a good board game name, Ian?
Well, yeah, it's okay.
So Newton is designed by Simone Luciani and Nestor Mangione, I think. Published by Cranio Creations and Simon. Artist Clement Franz. I don't usually say the artist, but we're going to come back to that because it just, the idea of looking like another heartless Euro.
And Norm, you have to correct that. It's come on.
Come on, yeah. Because yes, it's not a GIF, it's a GIF, right? I get it. So it's 1 to 4 players, plays 90 minutes. If you're playing 4 players, I can see that. And it's considered by BGG to be a medium to medium heavy game. The nuts and bolts. So Newton, the middle of the 17th century, was a period of great change. Great changes. With the advent of the scientific method came what we now call the scientific revolution. Many great scientists, with their theories and ideas, changed and shaped our perception of the universe. Galileo Galilei, Copernicus, Kepler, Bacon, and above all, Sir Isaac Newton. In Newton, the players take the role of a young scientist who wants to become one of the great geniuses of the era. To reach their ultimate goal, they travel around Europe, visit universities and cities, study to discover new theories, build new tools, and work to earn money. The game is played over 6 rounds. Each round, every player plays 5 cards from their hand, and each card played allows the player to perform one of many actions of the game. An action can have a variety of effects, which depend on the symbols on the board. At the end of the round, a player can take back all the cards except for one. I'll come back to that because I find that very intriguing. One card has to remain on the board, which means that you're giving it one possibility of doing an action, but also that very action will be carried out with greater strength. Fortunately, you can acquire new cards and with additional powers to perform more actions. After 6 rounds, you calculate your final score, and the player with the most VP wins. Thank you very much, Board Game Geek, for doing all the hard work for me. So that's pretty much the overview of Newton. So it's a card-driven game, hand management, action selection, point-to-point movement on 2 different boards. You've got a map board and you've got a student going through studies kind of board. And everything like a good dry Euro, heartless Euro, every track is connected to or influences all the other tracks. You can't really surpass a certain plateau without achieving or unlocking certain areas in other tracks. Consider that as I'm going on here. So you start out with a hand of cards. And with this hand of cards, you play them to a player tableau, which is a chunk of cardboard, flat piece of cardboard, but is so beautifully painted to look like a scholar's desk, right? Don't mention Hands of Teutonica because they both feel the same. Beautiful, beautiful. Dry Euro, desert dry Euro.
Don't mention Hansa Teutonica. I'm falling asleep again.
So the actions, you've got actions such as lessons where you're able to go to the market and get more cards depending on the power of your action. You have a compass, which allows you to travel the map to go and visit universities and sites and landmarks and cities. You have a work action, which is probably the most simplistic one because it's labor and you make money by just going up a track that has coins on it. But like every good Euro, there's threshold points that open up new advantages or bonuses that lead you to the ultimate thing in all Euros is the end of game victory point condition, right? We have technology action, which allows your, on the second map, you have your student who is basically taking different tracks down scholarly activities, which are basically leads you to other end game variable victory point conditions. You also have, and finally, these scholars have to study. So when you study, you take a little rectangular a token that has a picture of books on it, and you put it in your library, and you start to fill in the shelves in your library because you've studied, right? And if you can complete certain sections of your shelves that would demonstrate your mastery in certain abilities, that at the end of each round, if you can do so, will give you victory points. And as many people know, nickels and dimes add up. So if you can finish a shelf in the first round and it's worth 2 points over 6 rounds, that's 12 points at the end of game. So there's a lot of interesting, computations to make as you make your choices. So what was not mentioned was the one of the more intriguing parts of this game, and what I've discovered with all my plays is it is so integral to get these masters onto the board. So in the beginning of the game, you get a set of cards called the master cards, and you, like all good Euros, you get a handful and you need to get rid of some because you can't have them all. So upon looking at the board with all these end of game conditions and goals at the end of tracks that you can go to, and the synergistic relationship to the masters in your hand, because these master cards have either continuous advantages during the game, or immediate advantages during the game, or are just worth a ton of points at the end of the game. If you have a card that does a lot of really good things, it's not going to have a lot of good victory points for the end of the game. Vice versa, if a card has relatively nothing on it as far as actions and benefits, well, it's going to have the most victory points, because that's the balance in those master cards. Now, to get them onto your board, you have to pass certain thresholds on all these tracks that I've been talking about that will allow you to have a master in your entourage that will enhance your engine's ability to perform. So, like it was mentioned, this game plays over. You have 5 cards, or you have 5 rounds of cards to put down, and then you have one more round, a 6th round, to basically run that engine one more time. And the game ends with the person with the most victory points. So here comes, that was just basically, I could have described pretty much 90% of the Euros just with that description of tracks and moving things. But don't be confused with the whole heartless Euro kind of poo-poo. No, here's my opinions. The box cover is everything I would expect from a heartless Euro. Muted colors, simple graphics, historic looking font, and Clemens Franz artwork. It is beautiful. It's magnificent. It makes me weep. I love it so much because I know what I'm getting into just looking at that box cover. The components, it's a Euro. It's got awesome cardboard, cool looking wooden cubes that come in different colors. Did I sell it? Any plastic resin and STL files so you can print your own cubes of many. No, I'm joking. The rule book. Here's the one that shocked me and surprised me. Don't mention Hansa Teutonica. The rule book is clean as a German train schedule. It's nothing out of the ordinary. It's very steps, very procedural. The language that they use, this is what I was loving about it. The language that they use easily communicates to the player the concept and ideas that they're trying to communicate to you. And it's I don't have to go to BGG to get 4 or 5 different translations that kind of do an angulation as to what the rule is supposed to be that nobody really can translate from German. Happy with the rule book. The gameplay and game system, the only theme in this game is the title and the art. This is just mechanisms, man. This is like, if you're looking for theme, I read a comic book, I think. I don't know, but it's not in this game.
That is one thing I've heard about this game is that, yes, the theme.
It's literally painted on.
It does not match the puzzle. I've heard it more like as a puzzle, like
most
good Euros are.
Totally, that's a good segue. I'll drive right to that. It's a synergistic machine of pushing cubes up tracks, having them trigger other benefits and events. Now what I like about this, and I like it a lot, is that some games are this exact same thing, but they're not variable. All those little triggers are basically painted on. This game, you get twice as many chits for, let's say I'm putting down technologies, right? I get more than I need to put them down in the slot. So I get this rotating variability, and they appear different spots on the board. So this puzzle coalesces differently every time for me. And I look at, there's sometimes where I have great games, and sometimes I have games where it's like, Einstein couldn't put this, like, connect the dots together, right? And get good points. Sometimes the board does not give you anything but, right? it's, yeah, like I said, don't expect much theme. This is all beautiful mechanisms that sometimes have the engine humming beautifully, and sometimes it's like throwing a rod through the piston, right? The machine works or the machine don't work. And for me, though, as a game, this game works. If what you're looking for is a brilliant Euro with a strong puzzle that has so many other variable components that each time you set up the board, it's like trying to organize a 5,000 piece puzzle without touching any of the pieces. That's what I like about this game. Because every time you set it up, like I said, you gotta basically have that global, beautiful mind step back and look at how all the things are supposed to connect and what you have with your cards. And I love it. So my conclusion, my research was a success. And if you are interested in Euros that have no player interaction, are heartless cube pushers, and the only theme is the one that the artist puts on the box, then this is the game for you. I love it. This one is definitely top shelf, right beside some of my Felds.
I'll be honest, I'm disappointed that the theme's not that strong, because this idea of this history of science theme is actually something I'd be very interested in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the flavor text is great. Like, I mean, they as far as the Masters cards, but any kind of thematic, you're not doing you like. I'm with you.
It opens it up because I like the artwork. Like, I'm looking at pictures of it, and it looks like, I like that they've got all these historic scientist cards and stuff.
Yeah.
I guess it opens it up for somebody to make a thematic game with that theme, because I'm almost thinking you can somehow incorporate the actual scientific method into your game turns, right? Mm-hmm. The idea of experimenting, right? Building an experiment and then seeing if it fails or doesn't, and then trying again. I wonder if there's a way to make a Euro like that would fit the theme really well. Obviously, I'm pushing on.
You're Canadian. You're not German. But... See, that's why I came out of your brain like that, because you're Canadian. You're not German. Sorry, European. My mistake, because I'm pretty sure the two. I think these are Italian designers.
Yes, some of my favorite.
Well, yeah, I was going to say you love the Italian crew, don't you?
Simone Luciani designed.
Have you played this? I think you own this, Ryan.
I own it, and I've only just probably done what you did. I've done just kind of like a 2-player me playing me run through of the mechanisms.
The solo game is awesome. Like I played yesterday. I played the solo game 4 games in a row just to get myself back into now I know why I like this game, because because Simone Luciani, he also did the Voyages of Marco Polo. Okay,
it's a game that I really, really enjoy. And
they did Barrage, n'est-ce pas?
Yes. Simone Luciani was on the Barrage design team as well. Yeah, cool. And then all those other guys too, like Daniele Tassini and Virgio. Yeah, they when they design or then they release a game, I kind of pay attention to, because they kind of do create very neat puzzly Euros.
Yeah. And
I don't know, that's the math teacher in me, is that I like these kind of ones where you kind of have to follow a recipe in order to find the seed. You got to find out the linkings of the mechanisms.
Well, this game makes me want to read the rule book for Barrage, just to see if once again it's such a beautiful orchestration of Euro tracks influencing Euro tracks and cubes too, with different colors.
And Ryan, to answer your question before, no, I don't like the name. I don't know why they're singling one guy out. Why is it just Newton when there's so many others that it's dealing with in the game? It should be called like Masters of Science or something.
Man, I think there's going to be a design project up here. This is going to pick your nerve enough that you'd be like, I'm doing this myself.
In 2033, Ian Osmond will release a game called The Masters of Science.
There you go.
Yeah. And it'll have like a He-Man kind of looking guy on it with a nerd professor coat.
This episode is proudly supported by Mr. Dice Guy online board game retailer located right here in Saskatoon.
Mr. Dice Guy is always stocking the hot new titles, as well as restocking all-time favorites. They even have a ding and dent section for previously played titles. They offer free shipping across Canada on all orders over $200 or free local pickup if you're in the Saskatoon area. Check them out at MrDiceGuy.com. Saskatoon's Mr. Nice Guy is Mr. Dice Guy.
If you've made it this far, you've made it to the end of the podcast, and we thank you very much. I'm your host, Norm.
I'm Ryan.
I'm Ian.
And we'll catch you later. This has been an episode of Cardboard Conjecture, and we are Bridge City Board Gamers. And you can find us on Facebook at Bridge City Board Gamers Saskatoon. You can find us on YouTube, Bridge City Board Gamers. We are also on Twitter at BC Board Gamers. And of course, Board Game Geek Guild number 3039.